Welcome to Ad Week, welcome to NIL Plus. This is an incredible program that is in its first year here at Ad Week, and we are so excited to bring these two special people here today for you for the NIL revolution. We're going to be talking about building brands in sports and beyond, and how to really build these brands for longevity. This is not the short game, it's the long game, right? After we spoke yesterday, that's the one bottom line that I got from these two. So please, everybody, again, can you give a round of applause for Derek Sanderson? That's right. Derek is the VP of Talent Strategy at SMAC Entertainment, where his client list goes across the board from sports, entertainment, and beyond. And he handles NIL-specific clients from Boulder, Colorado, of course, the Buffaloes, Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, and of course, Deion Sanders as well. And then we have to give it up also for Marc D'Amelio. And Marc has a bunch of roles that he does, which I'll let you guys get into all of that. But Marc has a prominent role on the UConn campus with his collective, which specifically helps students across all sports build their brands, get deals, and we'll get into all of that today. But nobody wants to hear from me, although my name is Jenna, if you do. I'll be moderating this today, guys, as you know. And can you please just introduce yourselves to the room today and kind of go maybe a little deeper into what you specifically do with your brands?
Yeah, want me to go? First of all, excited to be here. This is my first time speaking at Ad Week, so really excited about this opportunity, and want to give a huge shout out to my SMAC family that came out to represent and support. Thank you for that. But like Jenna said, head of talent strategy at SMAC Entertainment. I've been there for almost 4 years now. Really what that role means to me and to the team is looking at our client roster, right? We represent 25, 26 talent across entertainment, music, and sports. Looking at where their careers are now and then where they want to be next, right? Formulating, putting together a plan with our team, with our various departments at SMAC, presenting that to the client, getting their feedback, really understanding where they want to go next in their careers, and then making that happen, right? Putting together a step-by-step plan to get them from point A all the way through Z, and then sort of doing that process over and again with their next endeavor and their next chapter in their career.
Great. My name is Marc D'Amelio. I am started in the apparel space, mostly in the licensed apparel space, so was an easy entree into getting involved in NIL. I am a diehard UConn fan, graduate, and saw that when this NIL thing started happening, I could take my experience with sports apparel and then my experience with navigating my family through different types of brand deals, and it was just a natural progression into NIL exclusively for the University of Connecticut and UConn, and was hopefully involved or hopefully part of the last 2 national championships. I think we've done a good job, and so excited to be here. Thanks for having me, and appreciate it, Jenna.
Absolutely. And let's just dive into a little bit of forming relationships, right? NIL was fairly new, it still is fairly new, of a concept to a lot of people, right? When it first started, nobody really knew what direction to go into. And that's kind of when people like yourselves came along, right? So how did you kind of step into that to start forming these relationships in this space?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a season ticket holder. I was on campus a lot, so I had relationships, and a lot of the student athletes, for people who don't know, my 2 daughters are pretty popular on social media, so is my wife, who's here. And a lot of the student athletes would start to ask me questions about, brand deals and navigating all the social media platforms. And I realized in this space, I actually kind of know what I'm talking about, and could help them and guide them. And a lot of the student athletes have a lot of questions about how to develop their personal brand, how to navigate through different brand deals, and it just started initially as a conversation, and then it expanded to, look, we can actually help them in providing, being the conduit between donors and the student athletes, be the conduit between brands and the student athletes, and also do other things that don't think a lot of collectives do, really help them And what D'Amelio Huskies does is really help student athletes focus on their personal brands, and that's what we've done so far.
I love it.
Yeah, and for us at SMAC, Coach Prime was a part of the SMAC family for a long time. Had one son, Shilo, playing, collegiately already before Coach Prime made his decision to go to Jackson State University and take over that program, and had Shedeur coming in as a quarterback. And through all the work that we had done with Dion and the rest of our clients, it seemed like a natural fit, right, when NIL sort of opened up, back in 2021 to kind of continue the same sort of success and the same process that we've had with our other professional clients and enter it into the world of NIL, starting with Shedeur and Shilo, and then we brought in Travis Hunter the next year, and then our most recent signing is Jordan Seaton, who obviously all at Colorado now.
And when it comes to building brands, I guess I see a lot of questions around this player's marketable, this player's not marketable. What makes somebody marketable?
I think, and Marc can talk about it with a lot of the success that him and his family has had on TikTok. I think it comes down to authenticity is a big piece of it, right? And just being, I know this sounds kind of weird, but being interesting off the field, right? Having other passions and exploring those passions, communicating those to your audience and to your fan base, I think is a huge way of sort of differentiating yourself. When it comes to the NIL clients that we have, they all love football, dedicated to what they're doing on the field, but they all have a lot of passions and interests off the field that they really want to dive into and share with the world and share with their fan base. And our job is to really help elevate those off-field opportunities for them so they can continue to do it, whether it's music or food or streaming, any of those opportunities that they can expand on their brand, expand on who they are outside of a basketball player, football player, outside of their sport, I think makes that athlete more and more interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we find that people, Mackenzie, who helped me run the collective, who's a UConn student athlete who's now graduated, we'll get young people who want to get in the collective, and they're private on social media, and I'm like, that's and it's not for everybody. Some people want to make money, but they also don't want to put themselves out there. So we look at student athletes that have a solid social media profile, and then we try to connect them with other brands, but then also help them. I want to know what their interests are outside of sports. We look at it. I started this collective knowing that University of Connecticut is going to do the thing to get them an awesome degree. Hopefully, in some instances, the student athlete will be able to play professionally. So they'll either leave with a great degree or play professionally, and if they leave with a great degree and they don't play professionally, we want to get them set up with a solid brand portfolio that represents them well, so they can do whatever they want going forward.
And when it comes to social media and things like that, I know you had mentioned just now about being private and things like that, but what are some major red flags or mistakes that these athletes are making that they may not know they're making in this NIL world? Because maybe they haven't met you yet. Maybe they haven't been a part of a collective. How can maybe anyone in this room who may be interested in NIL as a student athlete, what mistakes are they making? How can they really get it started?
I think, at SMAC, the big thing that we're working on across NIL and across, all of the talent that we work with is not having your social media page look like a giant billboard, right? And with a bunch of ads and different, partnered posts. You want to mix in a lot more lifestyle pieces. You want to speak to your audience directly about what you're excited about, what you're passionate about, what you're interested in. And when you have sort of branded posts after branded posts after branded posts, I think fans and audience members kind of get sick of that really quickly, and understand that you have to go out and make deals and collaborate with brands, but you want to make sure that you've got some of your own personal passions and interests across your social media page, so that you're continuing to educate the audience and other potential brands on who you are as a person, right? Like Marc was saying, who you are off the court and off the field. So I think that's the biggest thing that we see and that we have to deal with, just with the number of brands that we work with, making sure that we allow, our NIL players and, the rest of our clients to showcase their own lives on social media, as well as the branded posts that come with it.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why my daughters became really popular on social media was letting the public into a part of their lives that isn't necessarily private, but you don't see. And I think whether you're running a brand or a brand business, I think taking the consumer of the content in behind the scenes is really important. We tend to see the polished version of the quarterback behind center, but not everything that student athlete has done to get there. And I tell all of our student athletes, it's interesting to me as someone who runs the collective to know what everybody's doing. How did they prepare? What led up to game day, whatever your sport is. And I think that's that, and you'll gain a more intimate relationship with your fan base so I like to see more what's going on behind the scenes in their social media.
Right. And I just asked about the athlete side of things, but what about the brand side of things? What is something maybe that in your own experience that you've maybe seen that's like, okay, this is not a good brand deal for us, like this is a major red flag, this is that. And again, not to speak poorly about any type of brand or deal, but what's a red flag that maybe you guys are protecting your clients from in this space to keep them safe?
I think it's a tough balance, because I think you have to, we've all, well, not everybody, but I was a starving college student, and if someone dangles a check in front of you, it's hard to say no. So balancing out dealing with a brand that's right for your brand, and being, what Derek said before, being authentic is important. But not everybody has that luxury all the time to sit back and wait. So, a red flag would be something that is just not true to the person. We talk about all the time. My daughter Charlie used to drink Dunkin' Donuts from the time she was a kid. With me, I would go on a coffee run and she would get a donut. So Dunkin' Donuts was part of her, and she would have a cup, holding up a cup that she didn't get a check for 2 years until we willed that deal. So that was just a natural progression of a deal. So I would have a conversation with the student athlete and see what their interests are, and almost not work on defense, work on offense to go out and knock down those doors. Derek told me some of the deals he's done with first-time deals with major companies, which he could speak to, but it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it comes down to obviously the authenticity piece, right? If it's a brand, if it's a campaign that fits that athlete, that fits their mission and what they're doing in terms of building their brand off the field. And then I think, oftentimes in the office, we're talking about what the creative of the campaign looks like, right? Is this something that we realistically think a Shedeur or Shilo or Travis would be doing, right, in this spot? Or is this sort of the content that they would be putting out that's authentic to what they're already doing or speaks to things that they're already interested in? And I think that really can be sort of the determining factor at the end. If the brand lines up, if the campaign makes sense, it's got to make sense what they're putting out into the world, because obviously the brand is taking a little bit of a risk in partnering with these student athletes and putting out the content, but so are the student athletes themselves, right? To partner themselves with these brands and to make sure that the content and what they're putting out speaks true to who they are and what they believe.
Absolutely. And Marc, you have been mentioning your two daughters, Charlie, Dixie D'Amelio. They have combined millions and millions of followers on social media. You do as well. What is something, from being so closely tied to it with your daughters and seeing them go through everything, what's something that you tell your students that you work with?
Back to some of the other things. I think it's try to be, you have to balance out being able to pay the bills and take care of your family, and the student athletes. We have student athletes across the board, and we have almost 40 student athletes, men and women, through every sport, and a lot of them don't make money. So balancing out that being true to yourself and doing what's right for your brand, but also trying to get that money. I've always told my daughters, I've said two things: pack your own parachute and run your own offense. And I tell the student athletes, that too. That's kind of the key to how I've run my life, and I've told my kids that, and I tell the student athletes that.
I love that, and that is true. I'm going to keep that. Pack your own parachute, really. And Derek, you focus in the NIL space, like we had mentioned, on the most prominent Colorado Buffaloes players, of course, Deion Sanders as well, on that SMAC roster. How has that been to deal with all of that? We obviously see them in the headlines. We see them on billboards. I was walking in Times Square the other day and saw Shedeur on a Nike billboard. Can you give us a little insight into that? Because this space is so new and they're kind of ruling it in a way.
It's exciting. I mean, it's the first word was crazy because it's every day is something new. We have a lot of conversations with a lot of really great brands and that we're partnering with and doing collaborations with. But in a word, it's really exciting. It's a really great time for NIL. I think that student athletes, yes, Shedeur, Shilo, Travis, and Jordan, but across the board having a chance to make money while they're in school and really capitalize on the success that they're having while they're playing collegiately is massive for them. I know we're talking about sort of the big name players, but we know 98, 99% of college athletes aren't going to go to the pros. So having an opportunity for those student athletes to make money and sort of set a foundation for the rest of their lives is huge. But specifically working with Colorado, it's really exciting. I think being able to do the first NIL deal with Mercedes, being able to do some of the first NIL deals with Beats by Dre, and then moving on to Gatorade and some of the other brands that we work with has just been an incredible run, and we're still on it, which is really, really exciting. And Nike is sort of the newest announcement for Shedeur, which we're all incredibly excited for him and proud. And really the focus for them is on the football field and winning as many games as possible, and our jobs are really to take care of the rest.
Absolutely, and you guys do so well, which is why when we spoke yesterday, you guys said some things that had stuck out to me, which are nuggets of information that are evident to how careful you guys are with how you run your respective roles and companies, and it's really special. Marc, you had said NIL, I'm paraphrasing it, but you had said NIL is the first time that we're giving fans this type of access to students. We're giving fans what they want, right? Yeah. And that was so special because the more you guys put these types of deals in front of them, the more you're bringing the fans closer to these athletes. So you are serving this major purpose, and it's a well-oiled machine that keeps going. And I say all of that because the main theme I got from you guys was this is the long game. We're building longevity. We're building long-term relationships. And you guys kept mentioning the word authenticity. And how do you guys stay true to yourselves on that side of things when you're dealing with all of these big name people, these big name brand deals? You mentioned Mercedes. How do you guys stay authentic to who you are?
I mean, I stay authentic because this is a passion project of mine. So I have no intention to be an agent, a manager. I have no intention this is totally 100% about the University of Connecticut, and it's really great for people who are true fans of college sports because you can impact directly where normally when you throw your name on the side of a building or something like that, you see your name inside the building, but you don't know what has that money gone to. Here we did a campaign. We did a campaign for a baseball player the other day, and we did a match campaign with our collective, and we raised $15,000. We matched it with $15,000, and $30,000 transferred over to the student athlete's account, and like that for me is awesome. When he calls me up, he's like, thank you, because I needed to buy something for my mom or whatever. And so my vision of this is just to stay true and to help Connecticut, UConn student athletes for decades to come.
I love that.
Yeah, for me, it's, similar to what Marc was saying, have a lot of passion for what I do and love what I do and love working with SMAC and our clients, but this is what I do, this is not who I am. And so to be able to separate the two allows me to stay authentic even in those really, difficult moments, is to stay true to myself, knowing that as much as I love this job and the work that I'm doing in this space, I also have a life and an identity outside of it. And so being able to kind of keep those two in balance has been really important.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a great lesson to pass along too to these student athletes so they don't get in over their heads, right? And as we wrap up here, really also another theme of this conversation too is lifting these athletes up to a national level, right? Building these brands for longevity as well. And when we talk about that, so much work goes into it, right? So how are you guys taking these athletes to the national level? And maybe share some of the things that you were telling me, how much money you guys have brought in, how much you guys have changed their lives, and kind of what's in store for the future before we wrap up.
Yeah, I mean, I did an event for D'Amelio Footwear in LA, and we flew 10 athletes, 8 or 10 athletes out to LA. And like we have Donovan Clingan, who just got off winning a national championship as a center and now is playing for the Portland Trailblazers. He was like, this was the most amazing time. And so I'm offering opportunities, but that kind of got him ready. I mean, that was his first time doing a red carpet, walking down there, first time meeting a bunch of other celebrities and connections. And Michael Rubin was there, and he took pictures with Michael, and it was a great time. So those are the kind of things that we're trying to do. And I want to be a mentor to these student athletes and actually hand them off to Derek. I mean, that's one of the great things about this relationship. And you know, I'm going to be blowing up his phone and with every student athlete I have to talk about getting them with SMAC. So it's cool.
I love that.
I think for us and on our end, I think the really exciting part about what we've been able to do with Shedeur, Shilo, Travis, and Jordan is let them focus on the main thing, which is playing well, winning games, right? It all starts with that before we can do anything else or before we even talk to them about anything else. It's make sure that, you know, coach always says, keep the main thing, right? Make sure that is handled first. And then be able to explore all of the other interests and passions that they have outside of it. So, you know, something really exciting that, you know, our CEO, Constance Schwartz-Marini, was able to do for Shedeur and Shilo at the top of this year was get them to walk in the Louis Vuitton fashion show in Paris, right? So Shedeur and Shilo have always been into fashion, really love that space, want that to be a part of what they do off the field. And so to give them a really unique and special opportunity to be a part of that show and to see it from the inside out and be involved in a really, you know, unique and cool way. Those sorts of opportunities are the ones that we're really excited about, and then continuing relationships with the brands that we do have. So we're in, you know, our second or third year with Gatorade. We're in our second or third year with Beats by Dre and with a number of other brands that we've really worked with Shedeur and Shilo and Travis since they were freshmen, right, at Jackson State, and then on when they transferred to Colorado. So those are sort of the two main focuses that we have, is finding those unique special opportunities similar to the one that Marc spoke about in the red carpet, and then continuing the relationships that we've already built over time.
This is an incredible example, the two of you, of how relationships do work in NIL, because like you had just said, you can pass these athletes along to you for SMAC. Like I said, their roster goes beyond NIL as well. And let me just put into perspective as we wrap up that the NIL rule change occurred in June 2021. This is how much change these two have made in such a short time. You are changing lives. You are giving these students opportunities to provide for their families as well. And as somebody who works in sports, we thank you for that. And we really appreciate it, because NIL has become a beautiful thing when you have two people like yourselves at the forefront of it. So please, guys, give it up one more time for Derek Sanderson and Marc D'Amelio doing incredible things. And this is the NIL revolution at Adweek.
Thanks, Jenna.
Thank you so much.